This is a review for the DreamWorks Dragons Dawn of the Dragon Racers. And what do you think? It's alright.
It's quirky the way that the old episodes were.
Yeah.
Still, obviously, a kid's show.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Even though it came out with the second movie.
Yeah.
This was actually with the DVD and Blu-ray combo pack originally, and now it's on Netflix. So, a short summary. This basically explains how dragon racing got started that we see in the second movie.
Which is done in the quirky flashback scenario.
Yeah, and normally I'm not a big fan of that because it can be a little jerky, but it seemed to work well here.
I actually forgot once they were done with the flashback that it was flashback. So that was a small issue for me. That's because of how long they took to do the flashback. Because most of the episode was the flashback.
Yeah, like only a few minutes of the actual present.
Yeah, it was like a sandwich. It was a flashback sandwich.
Yes, and the bread was this thin.
Mm-hmm. It was a flatbread. But
it's alright.
They kept up the usual quirky humor that each character has.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, they had to. It was a flashback.
Although, in my opinion, during the actual present, when it wasn't in a flashback, Snotlout seemed to be a little more mature.
A little bit. He managed to invent something, so props to him for that. But a little more mature, but still overly masculine and competitive, that's for sure. But that's not going to change because that's the Viking way.
Mm-hmm. But this added a bit of the culture building that we wanted.
But, yeah.
The overall flashback gave us a look into the annual tradition that they had called the regatta. Was that a thing?
I don't know. I don't think it's a very fitting word. I don't think it's a Viking word. But I'm not sure.
But according to this...
Regatta's a New England thing? Yeah, this was with sailing, so regatta's a New England thing. Okay.
It's a boat race.
Yeah, I know it's a boat race. Theirs was a boat race. The problem is regatta is not a Viking word. So regatta is not a Viking word. Conclusion made. Which is yet another thing that they've done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to the realization that one thing they did get right was with Freya in that one episode where they said she was the goddess of fire. That is actually accurate.
Oh.
Her older brother Frey is the god of summer and happiness and fertility. She is goddess of fertility and fire and something else.
Kid? Or that Vega?
No, that's correct. Fertility is, as well as it's to do with reproduction and crops. Italian. I thought it was Italian because it sounds like an Italian word. So it's an Italian word that the Vikings had no knowledge of using, and yet they threw it in this show. So, thumbs down.
You could have used actual Viking words, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, DreamWorks.
I mean, they got as close as using Valhalla in it and Freya, but seriously.
And some Viking names like Magnus.
Thor. They reference Thor a bit.
Yeah, Thor's angry.
Thunderstorms.
Yeah.
It's a product of Thor's anger. That's something that was very deep in their culture.
But, yeah, The fact that they used an Italian word.
For a boat race, they would have had their own name for.
Yeah. And the fact that they called it the regatta and not a regatta.
Yeah. And I mean, Vikings had more than one annual tradition.
Yeah. So...
They could have done a little bit more research before they wrote this.
Yeah.
For a children's show, children won't know the difference.
No.
Nor think twice or ask twice whether regatta belongs in Viking.
Language.
Anything
Yeah.
Viking related. Unless they're a New Englander. If they're a New Englander child and know what a regatta is, then they'll question.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of kids will just watch, laugh, and forget.
Yeah. But this episode... I keep wanting to say episode. This isn't really an episode.
I don't know what it is.
This special...
Yeah.
It added a bit of world culture building, I guess.
Okay.
It explained some of the stuff, primarily dragon racing, that we saw in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, during the whole flashback thing, this is basically Thawfest 3.0.
Yeah.
And a lot better than the other one.
Yeah.
Better than Worsted Show and Thawfest.
Mm-hmm.
By far.
I feel like they digressed in Astrid's character a bit with this one, though. They very much reeled backwards to how she was first movie. She was far too competitive and very much against Hiccup, which is something we've literally never seen since the first movie.
Yeah.
Which made no sense, because ever since the end of the first movie, she was on his side for almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if she wasn't on his side, it's because she was on her own. And then here, we've got her siding with Snotlout, of all people.
Not the twins.
Yeah, the group that she's usually 9 times out of 10 saying, hey, knock it off. But here, it's just like, I have to agree with them. No, something here.
Really. But...
And Hiccup digressed a bit in his role as chieftain, because at this point he would have had the role at least twice.
Yeah.
So that made no sense either.
Yeah, so...
Because he had no spine. Once again, it was just like the first time he was giving acting chieftain.
The first time? When was that? When Stoic got kidnapped?
I'm not sure. It's all kind of blended together, but it's definitely similar to... when your entire village wants one thing, it's kind of like your obligation to go with them, because that's what your role is. It's not to do your own will, it's to appease the people.
Yeah. I mean, as long as, you know...
Which means it was a right move of his to do that. However, when his father came back, he should have been like outright, hey, nobody wanted to
do that.
Do the boat thing. But instead, everybody tiptoed around saying that the regatta sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like...
Why?
Just because it makes Stoic unhappy doesn't mean that he's happy with it either. I mean, we all saw how quickly he was like, yeah, dragon racing.
Yeah.
So, it's quite clear that everybody hated this tradition.
Yes.
And yet, they all tipped around saying that they hated it. Which makes no sense, because
he's
Vikings...
a reasonable guy. He's not gonna cut your head off.
Yeah, and Vikings are, like, very quick to get rid of things they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
I mean... And going along with your thoughts, dragons. Having dragons in the village. That's not traditional.
No. They've been breaking traditions since the first movie.
Yes.
So, why should they stop with their...
Why would they try to keep this for tradition if...
Nobody likes it. It's
boring. And they could do something better.
I mean, Fish Legs was the only person who was actually looking forward to it.
And
look how far that got him. He sunk. On a trial run.
And his sail design. His sail design.
I can't get over the fact that he made a sailor's cap helmet.
For Meatlug.
At that point in time, sailor caps didn't exist. So, and it was like perfect design per every sailor's cap you've ever seen.
Just made out of metal. Come on, guys. I mean, I know this is a kid's show. And I know I'm very OCD about accuracy. But come on.
It just doesn't work like that.
No. I'm trying to look at this reasonably because it's all right and it's good for what it is.
It works as a kid's show. That's about it.
Yeah.
And as college-age young adults, I'm unhappy too much. I mean, the inner kid in me was like, oh my god, that's funny. But that was about it.
Yeah, I mean...
It was all for laughs, which...
Yeah.
For a show that has some moral meat in showing the issues of competition and toxic masculinity and overcoming obstacles, it was kind of sad because they stop with the moral lessons and there's barely any educational, which is just like...
Yeah, I mean...
For someone who's as intelligent as Hiccup, their educational moments are very sad.
And few but far between.
Yeah.
I mean... I can't think of anything more. I mean, personally, I feel like we're bashing it unrealistically, but I'm trying to give it its due credit.
Yeah. They had some good animation and some crappy animation at the same time. The fire could have used more, but the water was good, as you pointed out.
Yeah, the water animation was...
The fire animation was clearly stock again.
Yeah, no. After all the money you made from the second movie...
I mean, they even recycled scenes.
Yeah.
The cave scene, they just threw in the twins. And that's how they made it new, but it was really just a recycled scene.
Yeah.
So.
Although I did like that they kept Toothless's echolocation.
Mm-hmm. It was very congruent, but however, that scene was very recycled.
Yeah.
And the hovering down into the well was also recycled.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Except the last time there was a rope involved. The sheep was funny, though.
Yeah.
The sheep were always funny.
That's really the...
And Silent Sven being not so silent was also pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Because I remember in the last episode of Season 2, Silent Sven found his voice.
Now we know why he didn't have one.
Thank goodness. But this episode was special.
It was a good intro, but at the same time, if I had seen this when, like, if it had, like, aired on cable as, like, a sneak peek preview, I would not be impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was, like, it wouldn't be a good sneak peek preview for the, next season.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they didn't make it a sneak peek preview, instead just threw it in with the, second movie. But
yeah, I can't really think of anything more to say, though.
No, we've kind of dredged the bottom of the barrel here.
Mm-hmm. Accuracy, please.
Yeah, hopefully the next season has more.
I mean, I can cut some slack for the first two seasons on accuracy, even though you did have some with like using the berserkers and woad.
Yeah, and incorporating the gods and.
But
a little mythology with them, but
this just basically threw all that away.
Yeah.
And if you put that much, a good amount of detail in the first two seasons,
yeah,
which is for like kids.
Yeah.
I mean, this came out with the second movie. The children are older.
By this time, they're aware that most of the people watching this are now in their teens.
And, I mean, I can understand if you're shooting for, like, the younger siblings of the true fans. But this
was a lame attempt.
Yeah.
Very lame. I mean, if we were Rotten Tomatoes, it'd be getting like a 12%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the highest rating, if we were Rotten Tomatoes, would be on the few animation effects that were good.
Yeah.
And the comedy that was
semi-decent.
I mean, some of it was the traditional... They kept with the traditional slapstick, which was good.
Yeah. Some consistency.
There were some things that was just like... They hit it over the head a bit, but...
Yeah, although I will give a nod of admiration for them actually injuring a character.
That's... yeah, that was very realistic.
On screen.
Very realistic.
Thank you.
They didn't outright say her arm was broken, however, I think...
It was in a sling.
I think they... I mean, as a children's show, they couldn't put it bent at an odd angle.
Oh, God. No.
But as it is, she stood up and she's like, my arm! And it's just
and it was limp, so
it's almost like SpongeBob SquarePants, where off-screen you hear, my legs!
My legs!
Or my eyes! But this time it's on-screen pain.
Which
even
is
though
good.
It was kind of pathetic in, I mean, if I was in an accident, whether it was car or dragon related and hurt my arm, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't just be like, my arm, snot loud.
I mean, screaming in pain, crying, because we don't know exactly what happened, but...
I mean, two dragons collided. It was a head-on collision.
Yeah.
Which would cause some more damage than just, oh, I think I sprained something.
Yeah, although, when the black sheep screamed and fainted, when it had two dragons coming at it,
yeah,
that, and then seeing Aster get hurt directly after that, personally I found that a little jarring, like mood whiplash.
Yeah. I thought the sheep died. It was like, oh god, it had a heart attack. No, sorry, it's a sheep, not a rabbit.
Yeah, and it, is there anything else in this barrel we can scrape out, or?
No, I think this barrel of monkeys is done.
Mm-hmm. Best way I can sum it up is more accuracy, please.
Yeah.
Please.